If this book exists, you're in the wrong universe. Sunday, August 21st, 1:31 p.m. Strawberry popsicles. Hunger at 21%. Me. A text to the mother, Regina, had confirmed that the father wasn't home and wouldn't be for some time, but that both kids were there. Perfect. I parked along the street, and we found Regina watering some potted plants on her porch. The day was hotter than a nude slide down a chrome volcano. "Hi," I said as we approached. "This is my girlfriend and associate, Amy. Did anyone have any bad dreams last night?" Regina, without looking up, said, "Not a one. It's like the whole black cloud got lifted. Can't you feel it?" It seems like whatever dark energy was coming off this thing had followed us home, but we'll be all right. This is what we're trained to do, and it's the reason we have a reputation for fixing problems like this, I said, fitting 3 bald-faced lies into a single sentence. I know we come off like weirdos, but what normal person would go into this business? "Bass got so mad about you taking the toy that I thought he was going to blow a gasket." "Yeah, I don't think I can do anything about that part. Hey, Amy is going to email you an invoice for the work we've done so far. It's going to be due upon receipt, but we'd like to talk to Bass and Gracie both. There's really nothing stopping them from going out and buying another one of these eggs and starting the whole thing over again." "Starting what over again? And how did they get wrapped up in something like this?" "We're not sure yet," said Amy. "But it's not just them feeding these toys with hair and teeth and gross stuff like that. It's something these kids are doing in various places. Not just in America. All over." "Is it like a devil worship kind of thing?" "Well, the problem is that there can be a really big difference between what they are doing and what they think they're doing. They may think it's just an internet fad, kids doing it for shock value, topping each other with who can put the grossest stuff in their egg. You know how kids are. Or they may be getting manipulated into performing a ritual with a goal they're unaware of, and that we'll hopefully never get to see. But you're right, they have to get the idea from somewhere. We need to find out." "But we can't do it for free," I said, saving Amy from the part of the conversation I knew she hated having. "I pay my bills," said Regina coldly. Amy asked, "Have you ever seen any odd behavior from your kids in the past? Ever discovered anything strange in their rooms or associating with creepy types? Especially someone older, the type who could try to trick them into doing something they wouldn't normally do?" "Gracie, no. As for Bass, I can see that you've never raised a teenager. One day your baby is there, the next they're locked behind their bedroom door and only stick their head out for food, swapping out personalities like they're trying on hats. I try to respect his privacy, but these days I don't even know the name of his girlfriends until they've been going steady for a month." I said, "This is going to sound like a weird question, but have you ever seen him in possession of small amounts of really thick black liquid? Would look like motor oil, but darker. It would probably be in a small but sturdy container, maybe something metal, and probably always cold to the touch." "No. Is that a drug?" "Sort of. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely something you don't want inside your house." "You're free to look in his room if you want." "We are? He's just going to let us do that. As a teenager, this would have been my worst nightmare." "He just left to go to a friend's house. You probably passed him on the way. I told him he had to stay and talk to you. He wouldn't listen, as usual. I'm not going to let you ransack the room, but you can get a look at it. If he has contraband, especially anything that would give the police an excuse to seize the property, then Bass's privacy goes right out the window. That's the rule, and he knows it. No drugs, no cigarettes. If there's pornography, he's grounded." The substance I was asking about isn't a drug, necessarily. It has many names. The now incredibly dead drug dealer who first turned up with it sold the stuff under the street name soy sauce, but it has a consistency more like molasses or oil from a badly neglected engine. Oh, and it moves on its own as if alive. We've found various paranormal communities online referring to the substance as shadow jizz, demon semen, the Grim Reaper's cum, the dark nut, and several other names that follow that oddly similar pattern. Amy found all those distasteful and suggested we rename the substance Armus, saying there was an evil tar-like alien in Star Trek named that. Then John started calling it Arby's sauce, either because he misheard or because his mind is deteriorating at a frightening rate. I don't actually remember what we landed on, and I guess it doesn't matter. In this context, let's just say that I'd let out a huge sigh of relief if instead of this stuff we found several kilos of black tar heroin and 3 corpses stuffed under Sebastian's mattress. I said, "Lead the way." As we passed into the house with its perfect central air climate control, Amy muttered to me, "I grew up with religious parents, so I'm something of an expert in hiding illicit things in a bedroom. I bet I can find his contraband stash within 2 minutes." Oh please, have you tried being a teenage boy in a world in which everything a teenage boy wants is considered creepy and wrong? I can probably tell you where he's got the good stuff hidden without even going in the room. Uh-huh. Want to make a bet that I find the secret thing before you do? Sure, I replied. I win, you have to spend an entire day doing a thick Cajun accent. Even if we get into an argument, you have to do the accent the entire time, and I mean so thick that I have to constantly ask you to repeat things. And I choose the day. It could be the day you're giving the eulogy at a funeral. You won't know. And if I win, she said, we both have to do the accent. Once upstairs, Regina unlocked the bedroom door and stepped aside. Bass's room was what I imagined my high school bullies went home to every night. A shelf with trophies, a row of autographed pictures of famous athletes on the wall, a framed news story about a high school football team, presumably his, winning a state championship, a TV position so that he could play video games from his bed, dirty clothes scattered on the floor, mostly t-shirts and shorts. In one corner, there was an altar built out of human bones, topped with a glowing skull that was floating 2 inches from its stone base, slowly spinning in circles. I said, "Anything jump out at you?" "I'm going to go check around the altar." "Good idea." It wasn't the worst altar of bones I'd seen. You can get plastic ones online that are no more than Halloween decorations, but this seemed to be made out of actual human bones, probably sourced from a medical supply outfit and assembled for sale by some witchy online craft store targeting the upscale poser market. The bones were held together by barbed wire, everything neat and clean. The hovering skull effect was achieved by a couple of powered magnets. No blood sacrifice offered here would be accepted by any ravenous demigod who had any kind of self-respect. Remember that in a general ritual, the bones aren't just an aesthetic. They are the evidence of a price paid, that you have proven that you're willing to violate the most sacred of taboos as a show of devotion. I mean, it's good that the kids just dabbling in this stuff don't understand that. It's not like I'm rooting for their spells to work. But if you offend the wrong entity, one day you're gone, and your parents don't miss you, because all memory of you is also gone. But maybe you do still exist, or a part of you, as a soul, in the jaws of a dark appetite that chews and chews, but never swallows. There was a drawer below the spinning skull, and inside it was a leather-bound book. On its cover was a tangle of thin lines, like a complex maze or a doodle drawn during a very long, boring lecture. Above it were the words, "The Book of Zarkrax," and I was immediately a little embarrassed for both the author of the book and everyone who purchased it. They'd named their god like a goddamned mini-boss in a video game. Bass had the bedroom of a high school jock, but if the dudes in the football team saw this, he'd be saddled with a permanent and shameful nickname within minutes. Amy pulled out her phone and took a picture of the cover, probably already wondering how much we could sell the book for if the mother told us to confiscate it. I said, "New bet. Before we open it, do you think it contains some kind of powerful forbidden knowledge, or has he hollowed it out to hide an object inside?" I say it's hollowed out. "I'm going to say forbidden knowledge. If he was going to hollow out a book, he wouldn't have chosen a creepy-looking one like this. He'd have gotten a copy of Infinite Jest or something. Start hollowing it out after, page 70, since you know nobody's going to get that far. I bet this will open right to a bookmarked spell recipe that will supposedly give him mind control over his crush." Every teenager we found dabbling in this kind of occult bullshit was either trying to brainwash an object of infatuation or destroy a rival. We had one case of a 14-year-old girl trying to do a spell that would spawn a live rat inside the skull of a cheerleader who had made fat jokes about her. "All right," Amy said. "Here goes." She opened the book to find a face looking back at us. Not a picture of a face, a live face, staring out like it was on the other side of a tiny window. The book had in fact been hollowed out, in a way, only the compartment was apparently a portal to somewhere. The face, just a few inches away from Amy's thumb, gruffly shouted something at her that may or may not have been in another language. She was so startled that she dropped the book. The cover slapped itself closed when it hit the floor. Regina immediately popped into the room from the hall. "What did you find?" I said, just a book. We'd like to take it back to the lab to examine it, in case there's something hidden in there." "What is it? Drugs? That black stuff you're talking about?" "I'm Not sure. Let me see. I snatched the book off the floor, holding the cover tightly closed. We really shouldn't open it, said Regina in her stern mom voice. Amy and I glanced at each other. Amy had seen the portal, apparently. Would Regina? If so, it was hard to predict how people would react to that kind of thing. I opened the book just enough to peer into it. The face wasn't there, but where there should have been text, there was instead an 8x10 window to some other place, or time, or something. It seemed like I could put my arm right through it. The portal seemed to lead to a large, dim space, with filthy concrete floors and high walls with rows of metal grates that I thought might be cages. A faint noise could be heard. Human voices, or animals, a chorus of moans and whispers and grunts. Standing some distance away was a figure, a man bathed mostly in shadow. He turned as if he could see me, like the opening of the book was visible from his end somehow. Maybe to him just a little square of light hanging in the midair. The man inside the book strode toward us. Then he broke into a run. At Regina's urging, I turned it around for her to see and held my breath. She said, "It's just a book." She seemed to scan a few lines. "It reads like nonsense." Ah, exactly. I could still hear the guy's rapid, muffled footsteps. I snapped the book shut, wondering if he could reach out and grab one of us by the throat. "What is it?" "We don't know," I said. "That's why we want to—" Regina snatched the book from me and opened it again. "Why are you so nervous? What are you trying to keep me from seeing?" She was holding it at an angle so that I could still sort of see into it. The man on the other side of the portal had stopped, but seeing the cover opened once again, resumed running toward it. He seemed very pissed off, and also very sure that he could do something about it. Amy, thinking quickly, said, "If you're going to hold it that close, I'd recommend you hold your breath. And if you want to handle it that much, I'd strongly suggest gloves. If Bass was using it for what we think, then the chemical can be transferred any number of ways. Can I take it back?" Amy reached out and gently tried to close the cover, minimizing skin contact like she was handling something dirty. Regina didn't let go. She didn't like being forced to do anything, it seemed, and she certainly wasn't used to the hired help talking back. The footsteps from the other side of the book portal grew louder. The man shouted gruff demands that I couldn't make out, but it now seemed like he was in the room with us. Thick, calloused fingers emerged from the book a split second before Regina relented, and let Amy close it. Amy took the book and held it against her body. The book thumped in her hand, like the guy was punching at the cover from the other side. Amy flinched and almost dropped it again. She gathered herself and said, "Sometimes books like this have hallucinogens in the paper fibers. Users tear off bits and put them on their tongue to get high, but if you so much as breathe the particles, you could be tripping for a week." "Or," I said, in reaction to Regina's look of alarm, "it could be nothing. Just a dumb book he got at a New Age store that sells crystals and bumper stickers about coexisting. We're just trying to be extra careful." Thump. Regina showed no reaction to the spasming book in Amy's hand. Amy said, "If you're not comfortable with us doing the tests, you can take it to the police, but as far as I know, they don't know how to test for this. Or maybe I'm wrong. We're trying to help you here. We work for you." "Let me know what you find. I mean immediately, the moment you get your results." The book knocked again, then stopped, like the guy had given up. Amy said, "Absolutely." I said, "There's an additional fee for the test. Amy will have that all broken down for you in the invoice. Where did the altar of bones come from?" "Oh, that stupid thing. Bass said he won it in a raffle at school. It was a decoration from a Dia de Muertos event, something like that. Wait, do you think it's cursed? Should we get it out of the house?" "I don't think so," said Amy. "Would you mind very much if we talked to Gracie? Oh, and, do you have a bag or something I can put this book in?" John. John steeled himself to do battle. He flexed his arms and swiped the Chuckle Cave website onto his wall. He steered the cursor onto the support chat box and opened a window. He buckled in. Please be patient while a customer service representative joins the chat. You are chatting with Jeremy. Jeremy. Hello, how can we help you today? John. Hi, I have one of your egg toys, the magpie, and it's acting weird. Jeremy. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is your issue with your feathered surprise nest playset or the Feeding Time Fun app? John. I guess both. I'm not sure. There have been some stories about people feeding them human parts. Not like whole body parts or anything, but like hair and teeth and stuff. Have you heard anything about that? Jeremy. It sounds like you're having problems with both the Feathered Surprise Nest playset and the Feeding Time Fun app. I'm so sorry to hear that. We'll do everything we can to get that resolved as soon as possible. What is your Chuckle Cave username or email address? John. Email is mrtatemyballs@lycos.com. Jeremy. Thank you so much for that. Unfortunately, I do not show that you are the original owner of the Feathered Surprise Nest playset. Was it given to you by someone else? John. Yeah, it was originally bought by a girl named Gracie Galvatron. Wait, actually, her brother got it for her, and they gave it to me. She couldn't handle the responsibilities, so they gave it to me. I took all the steps in the app to transfer ownership. Jeremy. I'm so sorry, but unfortunately, since you are not the original owner of the Feathered Surprise Nest playset, you are not eligible to receive a refund. Is there anything else I can help you with today? John. I'm not looking for a refund. Jeremy has left the chat. John cursed and closed the window. He clicked the support chat link again. Please be patient while a customer service representative joins the chat. You are chatting with Douglas. Douglas. Hello, how can we help you today? John. Yeah, I'm a police officer and I'm investigating a crime involving one of your products. Somebody is stealing teeth and I think it's because of your egg toys. I need to talk to somebody in charge. Douglas. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is your issue with your Feathered Surprise Nest playset or the Feeding Time Fun app? Me. I was wearing a belt because I'm the kind of fat that makes my old pants too big somehow. I took it off and gave it to Amy so she could wrap it around the book to keep the filthy man from punching the cover open from the inside. We then dropped the belt book inside a cloth Whole Foods grocery bag that Regina gave us. Do those stores not give you bags at the checkout line? What I wanted to do, more than anything, was leave. Sit down with this book, talk to Amy and John, maybe get in touch with somebody smarter than us to figure out what it all meant. We know from prior experience that, as a supernatural ability, making little holes in reality that let you travel from one spot to another is rare, but not unheard of. There are doors around town that open to spots miles away. For a while, at least. It's always a temporary state, and one bestowed by experienced people or groups whom you hopefully will never meet. It's not the kind of thing amateurs can do, is my point. At least not without accidentally sucking themselves out of the universe in the process. But if this book was opening to another country, or another planet, or timeline, or dimension, that would be the equivalent of finding that Bass had an entire neutron bomb in his closet. That's the kind of thing dark institutions can do with a lot of experts and techniques that are very closely guarded. If the President of the United States put out a request for a book like this, he not only wouldn't get it, but would most likely die of mysterious causes within weeks. Or, just as likely, wake up the next day to find he now lived in a reality in which he had never been president at all. We followed Regina out to the backyard. I spotted Gracie some distance away, sitting in the shade of a massive tree near a plastic slide and swing set. She wore a yellow dress that she'd already gotten dirty. She had a pad of paper in her lap, and colored pencils were scattered around her. We stopped out of earshot, and Amy went to work on Regina. I know this is all super weird, she began in her client-soothing voice. But I want you to know that you've done everything exactly right so far. I just got here, and already I can tell that whoever or whatever is messing with your kids is going to get stomped out into the dirt, because you won't quit until that happens. Your kids are lucky to have you. I mean that. Well, thank you. That said, it would be good for Gracie to see a counselor. Trauma is trauma, no matter what causes it, and Dalton is taking care of that, said Regina in a tone that slammed the door on that line of inquiry. That's good. We have a list of good ones around town if you need. We don't. Okay. Now, the stuff we found in Bass's room has us concerned, and we think there's a good chance this is about him, not Gracie. But this isn't about casting blame. If Bass is wrapped up in something bad, I want you to know that it's not his fault or yours. People get sucked into I don't want to use the word cult, but any kind of weird secret society thing because what they offer is real. I'm not even talking about the supernatural stuff right now. Friends, a sense of purpose, or just the feeling that you're in on a cool secret club that sets you apart from everything else in this dumpy little town. You were a teenager once. You know how it can be. I watched Regina closely. I don't know if Amy has great people skills or if they're just great compared to mine. Regina said, I was friends with a girl in high school who decided she was a devil worshipper, all because she got a crush on a boy in a death metal band, dyed her hair black and wore a pentagram necklace. Looked ridiculous. Her allegiance to the devil ended the day she heard the boy was seen making out with her ex at a party. She's a Christian singer now, has a record deal. Exactly, said Amy. At that age, stuff comes along and you latch onto it. So right now, all David and John and I are trying to do is understand. We're not here to accuse anybody or demand you do this or that. We want to find out who roped your kids into this. Then we go from there. Regina shook her head. This is just a nightmare. I can't believe this is real. All the stupid rumors we heard about this town before we moved here. That silly special on cable that claimed it's full of werewolves. That people all turn into monsters and prowl around all night. Ridiculous. But the moment we arrived here, I could feel it. I told Dalton, when it's sunny here, it feels like nighttime. Like the light isn't real light. It's just a disguise for the dark. I was only half paying attention. I watched the woman's daughter scribble on her notepad on the other side of the yard, seemingly oblivious to us. The grass was so perfect and soft that I kind of wanted to roll around on it like a dog. I asked, "How is Bass's relationship with Gracie?" "She worships him. He protects her." Amy nodded as if she already knew the contours of that particular relationship, then said, "I'm not going to interrogate her about her brother. I just want to ask her how things have been going. Either she'll open up to me or she won't. Are you all right with that? Obviously, you'd be right here, observing. I know I'm a stranger to you, so I'm not offended by whatever answer you give me." Regina sighed. "I've asked her and asked her about all this and gotten nothing. You're welcome to try." Regina and I watched as Amy walked over to where Gracie was doing her art, the mother making no effort to follow. We'd be far enough away that we probably couldn't hear much of what was being said, but were close enough that the mom could monitor the situation, to see if Gracie was getting upset, or if Amy pulled a knife on her or something. To me, Regina said, "If you run into Dalton, my husband, just say that I paid you to do a psychic cleansing of the house, because of the bad dreams we were having. Don't mention anything about Bass or this mysterious black drug." "He'll be okay with you spending money on a psychic cleaning ritual, but not this?" "It's not about the money. It's about what kind of conversation he'll want to avoid. You mentioned psychics and, well, that silly female stuff. You mentioned drugs, and it's time to start yelling and grounding everyone. All wives have secrets. All wives learn how to navigate their husband's rage." Regina was watching Amy as she said that. I sensed that she was expecting me to disagree with her. I didn't. Amy. Amy made it to where Gracie was sitting. The girl glanced up, and then immediately went back to her drawing. Amy raised a hand to shield her eyes from the blistering sun and said, "Can I sit here with you? That weird guy back there is my boyfriend. He wanted to talk to your mom, so they made me go sit in the yard." Gracie shrugged. Amy sat cross-legged next to the slide, then tugged at the neck of her shirt. "I can't believe how hot it is. At least you've got some shade under this tree. Do you think trees get hot? They don't have any shade." Gracie said, "What happened to your hand?" Amy held up her stump as if to examine it. "I was in a car wreck years ago. It got messed up bad enough that they decided to just lop it off and toss it in the trash. I also have a little piece of metal implanted inside my back, in my spine. Isn't that weird?" "Does it hurt?" "My back does. My hand doesn't. Not anymore." "When you have dreams, do you have your hand back?" "Sometimes. Sometimes I have bad dreams where I'm trying to do something that's hard to do with one hand, like a monster is chasing me, and I have to try to climb a ladder to get away from it. Other times I have nightmares where something bad happens to my other hand, so then I don't have any hands at all. Then I wake up and I'm thankful that I have a hand, and 2 feet, and a nose, and both eyes, even if I am blind without my glasses. A lot of people would trade places with me." "I know a girl at school who can't hear. She has a lady who helps her. They do sign language." Amy nodded toward Gracie's drawing. "Is that your dog?" "Not mine. It's just a dog. His name is Pooper." "Oh, and there's the Poop. Yeah, I see how he got that name. One day I was out for a walk, and a man came by with a dog, and the dog didn't have a nose. So I stopped the guy, and I said, 'Your dog doesn't have a nose? How does he smell?' And the guy says, 'Terrible.'" Gracie scrunched up her face, then smiled a little. "Was that a joke? Oh my God, you shouldn't tell jokes. You're not good at it." "I've been told that before." What is your boyfriend talking to my mom about? Do you believe in magic? She shrugged. Amy said, Well, you know how magicians can do a trick to make it look like they're pulling a rabbit out of a hat? Some people can do that for real, making objects disappear and reappear somewhere else, that kind of thing. I think maybe your brother is one of them, or he has friends who are. I'm not supposed to talk about that. That's fine. I try to mind my own business. But what David does, that's his name, what he does is go around and help people with weird problems, things having to do with that kind of magic, things that might be dangerous. Usually it's nothing, but we just try to make sure. You see, this kind of magic isn't free. Doing a trick like this is like asking a favor from a mean friend who makes you do bad things in return. We don't want anyone to get hurt. That's all. We're not here to get anybody into trouble. She pointed at the drawer. Is that where Pooper's owners live? That's where he lives. His castle. David says you and I have something in common. I used to have a little pet mouse years ago. I didn't have a cage or anything for him. He'd just come out at night and hang out under my bed. I give him a little bit of crust to eat and watch him hold it in his little hands. I called him Phil. One day, he just stopped coming around. I figured he probably just got a job in another city. My mouse was named Penelope. Mom says she got out of her cage and escaped, but Bass says he thinks Dad flushed him down the toilet. Why would Bass say that? Gracie shrugged. Is your brother nice to you? Yeah, I've seen some other brothers that were better, but he's pretty cool. I used to have a brother too, said Amy. His name was Jim. He was nice. He's gone, though. He's in heaven now. Why did he die? Remember how I said magic stuff could be dangerous? That's how I found that out. It was scary. I was sad for a long time. I miss him every day. I miss my parents, too. I had a sister who died. Baz says there's no heaven, though. Can you do magic? Kind of. I can only do one thing, but it's pretty cool, but also kind of scary. Do you want to see it? I don't want to scare you. Does it take very long? Not at all. I need a piece of paper, though. John. Please be patient while a customer service representative joins the chat. You are chatting with Brian. Brian. Hello, how can we help you today? John. Hi, Brian. Are you a bot or a person? Brian. I'm here to assist you with whatever issues you may be having with your Chuckle Cave product. Can you tell me which product you are contacting us about? John. You are the 5th person or bot I have talked to today. I am a journalist doing a story about how your toys are killing kids and are about to kill more of them. I was wondering if you'd like to comment before we publish. Brian. And please hold for just one moment. Brian. Hello, John. Someone from our customer satisfaction team would like to speak to you. What is a good phone number to reach you? John. What do you know? I found the right combination of words to get through. My number is... Hold on. I just heard an alarm go off. Something has tripped one of my booby traps. I'll be right back. Amy. Do you like birds? Gracie shrugged. With one of Gracie's black pencils, Amy drew a bird shape. Then she grabbed another pencil and gave it a red eye. Amy said, This is the crow. She's magic. Do you see her? Gracie nodded. If you listen really close, you can hear her calling to us. Do you hear it? Gracie listened. No. That's okay. Just do what I say, and I mean exactly what I say, okay? The first part of the trick, I'm going to point to different parts of this crow, and you're going to say the part out loud. We're going to try it. What am I pointing at? Her beak. Good. Now, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to point, and each time, I need you to say the name of the part. Amy pointed. Eye. She pointed again. Feet. Again. Wing. Amy whispered. Stop. Say that one again. Wing. Now I want you to keep that word in your mind. Amy curled up the drawing into a tube, about an inch in diameter. Then she bent it into a U shape. Make 2 fists, but hold up both of your thumbs, like you're giving me a dual thumbs up about 6 inches apart. Like this. Good. Hold them very, very still. Gracie did. Amy placed the paper tube so that it was sitting atop Gracie's hands, one end on each thumb, forming a paper arch. Now, whispered Amy, I want you to say the name of that last body part. Ween. Now I want you to say it 3 times as loud as you can, and we'll see if the crow calls to us. Ween, ween, ween. Amy grabbed the paper tube off Gracie's thumbs, held it up to her ear, and said, Hello? Then she set it back on Gracie's thumbs and said, It was just a telemarketer. Then she burst out laughing and collapsed onto the grass. Gracie said, I don't get it. I turned you into a phone. Oh my God, said Gracie, giggling. That is so dumb. Why are you like this? Me. Amy and Gracie were laughing about something. I glanced down at the belted book in the Whole Foods bag, but it wasn't doing anything unusual at the moment. What I wanted to ask Regina about was her dead daughter, Silva, but I'll admit that I had no idea how to raise the subject. There was no way to do it that wouldn't imply it had something to do with this haunted toy business, and by extension, her son. Once we planted the idea that Bass had possibly used demonic forces to drive her teenage daughter to suicide, or something even worse, that was probably all Regina would want to talk about. Regina said quietly, You're not the police. You don't have the power to arrest anyone. So let's say you and your partners find out who or what is behind this. What can you actually do about it? I remembered the forest fire we'd started last month and said, We, adjust to whatever the situation calls for. What I'm trying to find out, said Regina, is what actual abilities or skills do you have to handle this? I suddenly realized that I was in a job interview and felt a cold sweat coming on. Let me put it like this. I think that someday somebody will invent a gadget, like a pair of special glasses or something, that you can look through and just see what's really out there. The things that haunt houses, the part of you that survives after you die, the invisible force that always seems to make all of the exact wrong things happen at once. All of it. The things that are inhabiting this town, you mean? Sure, and other places like it. And maybe our lives will suddenly make perfect sense once that happens. The same as the first time somebody peered through a microscope and saw the tiny creatures that were turning their cheese moldy. And then maybe they'll look back at people like me and John and all the hucksters out there and laugh at us. The same way we laugh about old-timey doctors trying to cure infections with leeches. But until that day, we're all you've got. There are other people who can do this, but not many, and they're very hard to find. Real ones, I mean. The hucksters, well, they're everywhere. But what's so special about you? I won't bore you with the story. Basically, I think somebody tried to come up with this thing I described. Something that would let a person see through reality, perceive what's going on. I came in contact with it. So did John. Only it's not a pair of glasses. What is it? A thick black liquid. And the things you see with it, well, they look back at you. Regina paused to take this in. Amy and Gracie had stopped laughing and were having a friendly conversation. Gracie seemed totally at ease. These things, the ones that look back, asked Regina, are they what I saw in my dream? The walking shadows with the glowing eyes? Don't talk about them. Don't think about them or picture them in your mind. What they can do to you. Imagine the whole world is like, let's say, a big painting. A huge mural depicting all the people and nations in history. Now imagine a little kid snuck in with a pen and scribbled all over it, blotting out whole people or turning them into a crude mockery of what they were. The shadows can do that. Somehow with reality. Vandalize it. And the worst part is, you don't even know, because your mind is just another landscape for them to fuck with. No, that can't be real. Can it? The way I understand it, under normal circumstances, they're restrained from interfering, locked out of our universe. But when humans start tinkering with time and space, anything that messes with the fabric of reality, the shadows can slip in, start wreaking havoc. But like I said, don't think about... I stopped talking. Amy was jogging toward us. She skidded to a halt and said, Bass went to retrieve the egg. He went to John's house. John. Ow! What the fuck? Ow! Sebastian Bass Galvatron was lying in the grass clutching his leg, which was caught in a modified bear trap. The rest of him was getting pelted repeatedly by a nearby paintball gun mounted on a tripod. John approached and said, Security bot, stand down. The paintball gun continued firing. After a couple of more attempts at voice commands, John finally walked over and just unplugged it. He had 4 of them around the exterior of the house, attached to motion sensors. If you don't understand why a paintball gun would be an intruder deterrent, that only means you've never been shot by one. They hurt like hell. John approached Bass, who was covered in colorful splatters and looked like he'd just come from learning a hard lesson at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. The kid was now trying to free his leg from the trap. It didn't have the teeth of a bear trap, just a pair of curved bars covered in a roll of foam. It probably wouldn't break a bone, but you'd have to be Superman to free yourself, and you definitely wouldn't enjoy the experience. Keeping his distance, John said, "Did you not see the signs? When somebody warns you you'll be shot by robots, what just happened is the best outcome." "I'm telling the police. This is assault." "You're going to tell the police you got painted by a robot sentry because you were trying to break into a house to steal back your possessed artifact? Go ahead. It'll be the third call like that the cops have gotten in the last 90 days. Maybe they'll do something this time. Who knows?" "It's mine." "Are you the one who gave the teeth to your sister? Where did you get them?" "I don't know nothing about that." "We're not trying to build a case against you, dude. We're not the cops. Do you have any missing time? Like maybe you blacked out and did some things you don't remember doing?" "Fuck you." "Look, you got a genuine haunted flesh-eating toy, and you and I both know that's cool as hell. But your mom hired us to take care of this, and if we just give you the egg back, she's gonna yell at us and leave all kinds of bad reviews online. Dave and I are specialists at this. I know who you are." "Then you know we're the real deal, and you know that when we say you're on dangerous ground, you should maybe listen. Who told you how to feed the magpie, and what did they tell you would come out when it hatches? Or did they even tell you that part?" "Let me out of this. It's cutting off the circulation in my leg." "I will, once I'm confident you're not going to storm in there, steal the egg, and try to summon something nasty. What's supposed to come out of it instead of a stuffed bird? A real bird? A mean one? Or a whole flock of murderous birds like in that old Hitchcock movie, Chicken Run?" Bass stopped struggling with the trap. He closed his eyes and he began muttering words that John couldn't understand. He was deep in zealous concentration, like he was praying for the recovery of a loved one who was currently flatlining. John said, "Hey, stop that. If you're trying to fire some kind of hex at me, you need to cut it off. You don't know what you're doing." "Hey!" Bass opened his eyes. With a look of malicious determination, he reached out with his right hand, as if grabbing an object directly in front of him that only he could see. His hand disappeared, like he'd stuck it through an invisible hole. John said, "God damn it, Bass, you shouldn't be doing— Ah!" John doubled over in pain. His stomach felt like it was being torn apart from the inside. Acid pushed its way up his throat. He growled, "What the— Bass, stop!" He felt something twisting and turning in his gut, like several objects writhing around in there, pinching and stabbing at the lining of his stomach. John lifted his shirt and saw lumps moving around his abdomen. Fingers, pushing around from the inside. John fell to his knees. "Stop that! Fuck! Bass!" Bass was concentrating again, eyes closed, this time focusing on his trapped leg. His shoe tumbled to the grass, empty. His jeans, from the knee down, deflated as if there was suddenly no limb inside. He pulled the empty pant leg out of the trap, and a moment later, his leg reappeared. Bass put his shoe back on and walked past John, his hand still missing, the fingers remotely wreaking havoc with John's guts. He went inside the house and, a few minutes later, re-emerged with the magpie egg under one arm. As he passed, he kicked John in the face, then climbed onto a motorcycle he parked down the street. He made a motion with his right arm. The hand reappeared, and John felt his guts loosen. He collapsed to the grass, moaning as Bass rode away. Me. We pulled up to John's place, and he met us at the gate. He could barely stand. He read our expressions and grunted, "You missed him." I said, "Bass was here?" "Yeah, nice kid. Left a while ago. He's got the egg." "He does? God damn it, John, he's probably feeding tons into the thing right now. You had one job. You gave me like 3 jobs. I did all of them but that one. I never had a chance. He showed up, cast a spell, said, 'Man, this shit is duh filthy,' and took off." Amy said, "He cast a spell? Are you all right?" "Yeah, he teleported his hand inside my guts. I didn't like it. Oh, and if you're wondering how he got the egg out of the locked containment box, I'm going to assume it was the same way. It's still locked but empty. Come inside before the sun makes the products in our hair spontaneously combust." We entered his kitchen, the air conditioning freezing the sweat on my skin. John immediately sat down, wincing. I said, "He had an altar in his room, made of human bones but clearly store-bought. Amy has a picture on her phone." Oh, and that book she's carrying? There's a portal embedded in it. An angry dude from the other side tried to reach through. I guess that's weirder than the altar. Maybe I should have led with that. I need caffeine. Do you have any fight piss? John said, bottom shelf of the fridge. Let me see the book. Amy took the belt off the book and opened it for John. The angry man wasn't anywhere that we could see him, but otherwise the view was the same. John leaned close and said, the place it opens to, it looks like a slaughterhouse or something. And you hear that? It sounds like people and... Oh, do you smell that? I hadn't, but I also hadn't put my face that close to the book. He said, it smells like boiled sewage. Come smell it. I'll take your word for it. John tentatively poked his hand through the portal, then drew it out again. It's warm on the other side. Whatever the place is, it definitely doesn't have AC. Amy said, I can almost see it. When I opened it, I could sense the face there. Could feel the guy breathing on me. But if you asked me if I could see him, not really. It'd be like if you were in a completely dark room and somebody came right up to you. But, she leaned closer, I can hear that place and, I can smell it. Oh, God. She backed away. John grabbed an empty paper coffee cup from the counter and tossed it through the book. We watched as it landed on the filthy concrete floor on the other side of the portal, then rolled to a stop. Nothing else happened, so we closed the book and rebelted it. Amy said, that confirms something that we already knew, or should have known. From now on, you definitely don't want to put your face right in front of the book when you open it. I said, because of the smell? Because the guy on the other side might throw a rock and smash your face in. Ah, right. John shook his head. If that's opening to an entire other world, that's some industrial-grade wizarding. We can't even do that. Well, not on purpose anyway. Who the hell gave this to a teenager? You think he stole it? I said, if so, the owners are going to want it back. I guess it's bad news no matter how he got it. Amy asked, Did you get to talk to anyone at the company who makes the toy? Yes, thank you for asking. It was a dead end at first, but I finally told them I was a reporter and wound up on the phone with a PR lady. I actually just got off the call. She insisted there was an internet hoax about their toys being possessed. Said some trolls started posting videos of themselves feeding them blood and hair just as a prank. She said that if the story I wrote implied they were complicit or liable in any way, I'd be hearing from all their many attorneys. We talked for 3 minutes total. I said, if they're secretly in the carnivorous toy business, we'll be hearing from them all right, and probably not their legal team either. Well, I hope they like bear traps. Did you get anything out of the girl? I got confirmation that the toy is Bass's deal, said Amy. He bought it, told her how to feed it. It's been his project from the start, which again makes me want to find out what happened with the sister who killed herself. Gracie didn't want to talk about what exactly happened there. Not at all. I said, you think Bass caused that? Or even hexed her to death and the suicide was just a cover story? We don't know anything like that yet. Even if he was involved, it could have been an accident. He could have summoned something he couldn't control. We should find out. She glanced at her phone. Right now we've got, I'd say, a little more than half of a hunger meter until the egg demands to be fed. And, if it all goes badly, this minion thing emerges. We have no idea where Bass took the egg. We know he wouldn't take it back home. His mom would see it. Maybe a friend's house? I was getting to that, said John. There's an organization that kept coming up in my Google searches called Simurai. Got it, said Amy, already tapping it into her phone. They've got a local chapter and... Yep, here's their Facebook page. And there's Bass Galveston, right there in their header image. There's like a dozen members. So do they have a secret clubhouse or temple or something? I asked. If so, finding the egg is probably as simple as figuring out where... Doll enema, screamed John, pointing at the screen over Amy's shoulder. Makes sense. It's been closed ever since the flood. He was pointing at a picture of a pack of pale nerds dressed in black in front of a boarded-up movie theater. The actual name of the place had been the undisclosed Dollar Cinema, but several of the letters had been stolen from the sign out front, and it now just said Doll Enema. As John had said, it was one of a bunch of businesses around town that had closed after the flood and never reopened, same as the sex shop under my apartment. That flood was the kind of disaster that gets maybe 1 minute on the national news, probably with some helicopter footage of submerged cornfields and the washed-out bridge, maybe ending with a quick shot of a distraught family sloshing around what had been their living room. Then the anchor moves on to some celebrity scandal and the audience never thinks about it again. Meanwhile, there are hundreds of people here still waiting on insurance payouts. Every wall of their old homes now black with mold. Not many deaths in a disaster like this, but plenty of anguish. I said, yeah, we definitely have to pay that theater a visit. Obviously we don't know that's where they're taking the egg, but... Amy said, here we go. The most recent update on the page was from just minutes ago. A pic of a few members of the group, including Bass, posing in front of a large box made of chain-link fence, a kennel designed for a couple of big dogs. Inside the fence was the plastic magpie egg, and behind the kennel was a silvery white wall. Damn, social media makes investigating people a breeze. That's a movie screen behind them, said Amy. They have the kennel up on the stage. They probably plan to all gather tonight and watch it hatch this minion thing. Swallow the gumball swiper. John said, but that means the place may be full of people who can teleport their hands, just slap us from across town. We need to be prepared. We have the white magic dolls. Maybe we could tape them all over our bodies, create a field of protection. I said, don't be ridiculous. We may still need to sell those. Of the supposedly haunted dolls we'd accumulated, 20 or so were said to have positive energy or white magic. You could just hear the K John was adding to the end. Their powers mostly consisted of lending a vague, peaceful vibe to the household and or warding off bad dreams. John kept those in the back of his van for emergencies, and because he worried that if we put them in the storage locker, they may start fighting with the dark energy dolls. John said, my point is, we can't just charge in there with chainsaws buzzing. If all these guys have actual powers, we probably wouldn't have a chance to saw off their spell-casting hands before they teleport their entire bodies into our urethras. Right. And if everyone but Bass is just a poser, then we'd just be dismembering a bunch of nerds, and we'd all go to jail after the world's most baffling trial. He thought for a moment. I have an idea. This is going to sound crazy, but... John vanished from in front of me. So did the room.